What's good, folks? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Anish Miladi and thank you so much for being here. I hope you're all doing wonderful today. So today, like I promised in the last video, we're going to talk about what you can do at home to practice photography. 5 quick subjects that you can pick up and use to practice your photography at home. Ready? Let's hit it. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed that sequence. I had a lot of fun making it, and it was a huge blast to just, completely storyboard it out, take the shots, and color grade, edit, and put that together. It took time, but I think it was worth it. Let's dive right in. You saw a few things that I was talking about in the video. The first up, stationery. Stationery is really interesting. Stationery is one of those small things that can move around anywhere, which means you can play with it against a wall, on a table, anywhere you'd like. Just hold it up, put it there, take a photo of it really quickly. Really easy to take really nice shots when you're talking about stationery. Now, one of the really nice things to do with stationery is flat lays. And flat lays are when you lay out everything in this really nice OCD manner. The other big thing that you can talk about when it comes to stationery is just context. Write something on a sheet of paper, put a pen next to it, focus in, blur out your background, and you have a really nice shot. The stationery itself, the pen or the book or whatever, doesn't really need to be the focus of the shot. It could be a part of it, could be the nib of a pen, could be the logo on a book. In that sequence that I made, I emphasized the Emirates logo a lot. The high contrast made it a really nice stand out against a black background, which was kind of like the theme for the video that I was going for. Number 2, glasses. I'm not talking about your regular sunglasses or maybe your spectacles, although those are really interesting subjects because those have their own little modifier aspect that you can use. The tint is something that you can play with, which is really nice. Think Ben Franklin's glasses from National Treasure. But the other thing that you can do is dinner glasses. Now, dinner glasses are often really nice, especially the crystal ones with ornate designs. If you've got one of these lying around in your house, you can basically try to play with it as though you were doing a product photography shoot. Now, if you notice, the image that I took is actually composed differently to what I spoke about last week. It's composed in the middle third rather than off to one of the sides, and this is something that you will see typically in product shots which are focused only on the product. I don't care about context because what my context is my product. All I'm doing is showcasing, in this case, the glass. So if you see, the composition is such that the bevel of the glass, the big part of the glass, of the goblet, is in the upper third, and the reflection occupies the lower half to lower third of the photo. And that's very deliberately done. Like I said last week, there are times where you throw this out of the window, and this is one of them. We'll talk more about product photography later. But for now, glasses are really interesting as subjects, but also as modifiers. If you have a glass that's wider, that has a wide brim, then what you could do is pour water into it and try to capture that freeze frame just when the water's falling. Or maybe if you have a nicer glass that's tinted, use that as a modifier, kind of like I was talking about with the spectacle. Use it to color cast your photo and get that little tint of maybe brown or blue, or depending upon the color of the glass that you have. Number 3, instruments. Instruments are really interesting because of the way they work. Instruments capture a certain emotion that a lot of other things can't. Because instruments are primarily used for music, and music is inherently tied into some sort of emotion for someone, be it happy, sad, angry, excited, whatever. Instruments are used in a completely different way, which means that you can position them and do a lot of really interesting stuff with these instruments. And that's the really fun part, right? Because you're doing this, you can create an emotion using a scene, even if you're not showcasing anything else. It's just the color of the scene, the various angles that you can play with. I'm using a piano because I play the piano, it's what I have at home, so it's a really nice way to play with contrast, colors, settings, and so on and so forth. A strong recommendation, at least in my opinion, is to actually play with the different parts of an instrument, like take shots of just the keys, or maybe of the entire rack of the keys from the entire 88 set. Focus at different points, see what works well. But this particular shot, I'm focusing only on the roller, and I'm trying to showcase the middle of the entire scene with the sheet music in the shot. So that's really important to be able to tell those kinds of stories using instruments. The more interesting part of instruments is when you have someone playing them. Instruments in and of themselves are pretty useless. They don't make sound, they don't generate any sort of feeling on their own unless someone's really attached to it. But the second you have someone playing an instrument, now that's a whole new scene. And now we're in number 4, people and pets. The idea of showcasing a person on an instrument, that's really useful because suddenly you can use a person's actions, a person's emotions, a person's expressions to immortalize that entire scene rather than just one instance. Now, if you're taking a picture of someone playing the piano, you can showcase the sereneness of the piano, or maybe the anger based on what they're doing actually on the keys, what kind of pleatia, what kind of music they're playing, so on and so forth. The other thing that you can do is set the entire scene. Now, this isn't a really specific type of photography, but someone playing an instrument has been one of those epic shots, those really nice black and white sepia style shots which look really nice in almost any setting, and they're great for framing. So those are really nice sides of shot. I haven't actually had the opportunity to take one yet, still looking for a good model for it, but it'll happen and I will show you guys when I get there. Now, the other thing you can do with people and pets is just take pictures of them, and this is where it gets really interesting because now you can play with just the person. You're now focused just on framing the person, on their expressions, the way they're standing. You're trying to make them look as flattering as possible, and you learn a lot about the human body and how to pose a person using this. And that's a really big part of portrait photography, especially if down the line you intend to work with a model, or maybe you're just shooting a wedding or something like that. Then you need to be able to pose a person. You need to know what angles look best, what looks flattering, what doesn't, what tells the story you want to tell with that person's expressions, their body language, their actions, all of that matters. And so it's really important to look at that as well. Pets, again, if you have a corporate pet, you can do a lot of really cool stuff. Posing a pet is really fun. Maybe just pose your kitten in your backyard if you have one, or if you're just in your house on a couch, just curled up. Kittens make the cutest pictures sometimes, and just have one of them curled up and take a picture of them, focused in, just glaring at the camera because you're interrupting their nap, and that's sometimes the cutest shot you can ever take and will gain you a lot of traction and a lot of fun. Playing with animals in a controlled environment like a pet also preps you for wildlife photography when you're in the wild, when you only have a split second to get that leopard walking by, or maybe that tiger, which after 5 different national parks in India I still haven't seen one myself, or maybe that split second when a tiger brings out her cubs to play, and it's like a once in a month occasion and you just capture it. You need to know what to focus on, what parts of the animal are important, where your eye should go when you're looking at an animal versus when you're looking at a human being. So if you have a pet, definitely play with them, definitely take some photos with them. I don't actually have a pet, so this is just a recommendation. I haven't actually had the opportunity to take pictures with animals in the local area, but I do dabble in wildlife photography. Okay, last one. Now, the last one here is food. And food photography is a lot of fun. Now, photography of food is its own little art form, its own little thing, where people spend a lot of time trying to make food look good and look appetizing. Now, the story that you're telling here is that food should look edible and good to eat. That's where you're going with this. You're not trying to showcase the dish itself, but you're trying to showcase its flavor, its taste, its smell. You're trying to capture that into an image, a visual piece. And the look and the way you frame it, the context, maybe the dinner table around it, maybe you take half the plate, focus on the garnishing more than the actual dish. All of that adds ambiance. And ambiance and context are very related things. There's a reason that when you go to a restaurant, people talk about the ambiance first, the food second, because the atmosphere in which you eat is really important. Now, this is really easy to do, especially when you're at home, because all it takes is adding a little bit of just that little extra sprinkle of maybe cheese on top or on the side, maybe that little bit of sauce on the side, and then you've got this beautifully framed, perfectly garnished dish, which looks really nice to look at, and that's super important when you're trying to showcase the appeal of food. So food photography is its own little genre, and we'll talk more about that later, of course. So there you have it, 5 things that you can photograph at home today. And these things, that every single part that I've talked about has its own little different aspect to it. each little photograph is its own style, and that's the really cool part about everything that I've told you today, is that it helps you practice your own styles. We talked about flat lays with stationery, we talked about product photography with glasses, people portraiture with pets and people, your household, and so on and so forth. We spoke about instruments and settings, and basically trying to tell a story with that. Now, that doesn't really have its own genre per se, but you'll see a lot of shots dedicated to focusing on people playing an instrument, or maybe just highlighting the instrument. It's also kind of product photography, and so that's a lot of fun to do. And of course, food. There's a whole entire aspect of photography that's just open to you. Astro, landscapes, you name it, you can keep going. And we'll explore all of these in great detail later. But the cool thing about these 5 is they're things that you can practice. You can check whether you actually like taking those kinds of shots, if those are the stories that you want to be telling, if you're trying to get into this seriously. And that really helps in kind of dipping your toes into something that's a whole ocean waiting for you. So there you have it. 5 things you can photograph, 5 shots you can take. Alright folks, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, toss a like on it before you leave. If you want to see more of this content coming your way, hit that subscribe button, get notified, have fun, and I'll see you in the next video.